In this video, we have this Everest 10, but it needs a controller and an ESC. So in comes Radiolink, this is the RC6GS, and Hobbywing 1080 ESC, brushed crawler ESC. We're going to get this Everest 10 up and running. We're going to have the four-wheel steer working with this Radiolink, and then we're going to give it a shot and try it out on the crawler course. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This is Roadside RC and my name is Troy. What you'll typically see here on the channel is things like crawling, bashing, drifting, and racing, plus product review videos and how-tos. Today on the workbench is this Redcat Everest 10. It was actually given to us from a very, very generous, loyal supporter of the channel, Mr. Rich B. Sent this over, sent some spare drive shafts, has a motor, has all this other kind of stuff. Really, really very generous. But it does need a couple parts in order to get up and running. And so that is what we are doing here today. This Radiolink, this is the RC6GS. It'll give us the capability to put four-wheel steering on it because as Rich sent this to us, it already has a servo and a spare front axle in the rear. So we can actually run four-wheel steering on the truck. Has a motor, has a transmission, needs an ESC. Looking at what we're dealing with here, you can see where the ESC and receiver should be mounted. Battery has a nice forward mounting up here. Also, what we're looking at, you can see already nice aluminum brace here on the both front and rear of the truck. That is very nice. As we start looking at it, it's already got metal drive shafts, some level of aftermarket metal drive shafts, so we'll be able to test those out. It does have some aftermarket tires and wheels already. They are non-beadlock, and these are those kind of like Amazon special swampers or whatever, so we know that there are some better tires out there for it, but we will give these a shot to start with. Looking at it, it does have, like I said, full motor and transmission in it. The motor is one of the newer Redcat 540 size. Unsure what turn it is though, so we will definitely give it a shot and see how fast it is. Otherwise, I mean, I'll be honest, this truck looks like basically brand new, as if it's never even touched dirt. It looks just amazing. Again, huge thanks to the Rich B for sending it over to us. So the first step that we're going to do is get this ESC out of the box. We know we're going to have to solder some ends on it and then get it mounted in the truck. Hobbywing 1080 is mounted here, and it's kind of the normal ESC tray for the Everest 10. I put the power button right next to it. Both of them are just double-sided taped down. Has XT60, very common crawler spec plug on it, so we're just going to leave that one there. We ran the power wires for the motor leads in here, but due to that open spur gear, made sure that it was zip tied very carefully away from all moving parts there so that it does not get hit, hooked into the motor nicely. That should be great. Next is the receiver. Two things with it. There is no receiver box. There is no waterproof place to put a receiver in this truck unless you make one. Second thing, I'm not too sure if this Radiolink actually is waterproof or not, but I never trust that they are. So I will be using some of this MG Chemicals conformal coating. I'm going to open that box up and I'm going to fully coat the circuit board inside here just to make sure that it is waterproof. Probably end up mounting it right here on the chassis where the factory receiver is supposed to go. But first, before we get mounting it, I have a front servo, rear servo, and ESC. We're going to hook it up and we're going to make sure that everything works before we do the conformal coating. I'm going to hook up just the servo, just the front servo, and just the ESC because we need to set the ESC forward and reverse and neutral set points on this before we ever get started. So first things first, we're gonna power it on just to make sure that it powers on. Okay, it gives me the red LED flash because that means it has not been programmed. All right, we're gonna turn it back off. We're gonna hold the set button while we turn it on. It goes into beeping. We will give we will give neutral. Hit it once. Full throttle. Reverse. And then that should be set with those final blinks there. Should be able to gently show forward and reverse. Very good. All right, so that is set. Steering. It looks like my steering is reversed. So we need to go into the settings here. Option 12 is reverse, and steering, we are going to enter it and reverse it. All right, exit, exit. Now we are right and left. Now, next thing I'm noticing is steering endpoints need to be adjusted because we're about to rip that servo off of that, off the axle. So again, entering into the training mode and entering into the menu. Item number 3 is EPA, and we are going to look at steering right. Take it down to about 80%. Still too much. Now I need to check since it's reversed. All right, right about, because it's reversed, I'm actually modifying left for the right, or I'm modifying right for the left here. So I'm noticing it just wants to go past it. So it looks like we're going to go down to about, we're going down to about half in order to make sure we don't burn that servo out. I'm going to head over here and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, now we have front steering. With the truck off, we're then going to go ahead and plug in, I figure I'll just go ahead and choose channel 4, why not? Pick a channel, any channel. I'm going to plug channel 4. I'm going to put the rear steering into there. Okay, we are going to power the truck back on. It definitely notices that channel 4, we definitely have powered to there now. We need to go into the menu. We need to go to channel, we're at option 15, which is the mixing. We're going to enter in there. We have that turned on. I need to come down here, so it has a left-right %. It has what is the master. So master is steering, but which one is the slave as it's in its terminology. So if we go into there, we can say it's either the steering or the throttle or channel 3 or channel 4. So for some reason, the whole setup didn't like it being in channel 4. All I did was swap it to channel 3, have it in that mix mode, and now we are completely, it completely has 4-wheel steer. Here's the other way with this receiver and controller setup that you can do a rear steer. So check out my SWB switch B here. Look, in the center is straight. Up goes one direction, left goes the other. I might actually prefer that for this setting because otherwise you kind of end up in a situation where you're always in either same turning or crab walk turning based on the settings in the controller. In the previous model, in the previous settings where I had it set on switch 3, when you come in and turn, it's always going to turn the rear with the fronts, how you have it set. If you want it to turn opposite, you have to come in and actually reverse channel 3. So you have to go into the menu, find the reverse, switch reverse, and then it would, crab walk if you want it, or it would reverse that channel 3. And then if you want it to go back, you have to reverse it again. Now you can deal with that, you can live with that, but here's the other way, especially for crawling, that I think I might like, which is just on a switch. So channel 5 was already set to switch B, so I just plugged the servo into channel 5. You don't have a lot of manual setting for center, so I had to take the servo horn off and recenter the steering with where it wanted to be for channel 5. And then you just simply set the endpoints for both the right and left in order to have the steering that you want in the rear. I think I'm going to try it this way and see how I like it. Before I go any further, it is time for me to take this receiver apart and put the conformal coating on it. Alright, conformal coating really is a lot easier than you think it would be. Take the little brush, brush it on the circuit boards, and you want a good clean coverage everywhere. I like to put a couple coats on, make sure, especially on these fancy circuit boards, that they get fully covered and there is no issue. I'm going to stay away from this switch over here for the gyro switch. Not that I plan on using the gyro switch, but especially in the crawler, but I'd rather it be functional. I'm purposely not trying to get it on the pins themselves because that obviously needs still good contact. I'm going to have to let it dry in one orientation, come back, flip it over, do it again. I have let this dry overnight, and you can just see beautiful coating of that conformal coating all over it. There is no way water is getting in and harming that board. So we are ready to put it all back together and get it mounted up. Everything is in. Check that out. Receivers in, ESC's in, servos, everything is tied up nice and neat, right? Zip ties are your friend. You can keep your wires nice and tidy. Especially important with this exposed pinion gear here and the spur gear on the bottom. You don't want any of your wires getting it hidden in that. You can see I actually used a spare piece of heat shrink that I have. Now I haven't actually heat shrunk it. I'm just literally using it as an abrasion tube so that if this does get loose at all and it comes over against this spur, that I am not immediately eating those wires up, which would end up being very expensive. So small piece of heat shrink. Everything else is tied in. It is time to get a battery in it and give this thing a shot. here we are after that first run with the Everest 10. So overall, I mean, with all those winter conditions and everything else, you gotta give it to it. I mean, the truck really did pretty good. You know, could you tell that it's a little top heavy? Yes. Could you tell that it needs more weight on the front axles? Yes. But you gotta think that this truck is, for all intents and purposes, practically exactly as it comes out of the box for performance reasons, except for the tires. Yeah, the speed control, since I have that Hobbywing 1080 in there, that probably helps a little bit for throttle modulation and all that. But, you know, when you're talking about getting a budget crawler, someone who is wanting to just kind of get their feet wet with a crawler for the first time and see if they kind of like it, the Everest 10 really is a pretty good choice. So overall, really, you gotta say the truck did pretty good. There's certainly some modifications we can do to this thing though to make it just that little bit better. So be on the lookout for that. We gotta get it lower. We gotta get some more weight on the front of it. One of the big things that's kind of my hang up though is with these axles, there's not a lot that people offer for it. You know, I really love overdrive. I love overdrive in the front axle. I love putting some weight on the front axle. I like the trucks to get down low. And there's not a lot that you can do with these stock Everest 10 axles. And so it's one of those like, do we throw a whole different axle set at it that then allows us to do a lot more modifications? You know, what do we really do there? So that's something that I need to research. If you have any ideas, put it down below. But overall, huge thank you to Rich B for sending me this truck, letting me get it all set up, letting it do that. And thank you to all of you who are watching. Always appreciate all the support. I'm going to go do some research on this truck and see what I think I want to do to it next. I'm going to ask you to come over here and check out some other videos that I've already made, and we will see you in the next one. So thank you and goodbye.